On the heels of DevLearn, which is the e-learning guild's annual conference, great networking opportunity, but even more than that, there was a lot of great learning. My focus, as you can see from, if you've been following along, I actually was posting some mind maps in my notes at the end of every single day, and so you can download all of those from the previous posts. But what I thought I'd do today is just kind of summarize what some of the top ones, the top 6 were that I found compelling in terms of the different sessions and the keynotes that I attended. And as you'll see, I pretty much focused this time around on social learning. And some of the key themes that came out was just the rampant flow of technology, as it continues to march on, our need to filter all of that information and to curate information for each other. So on day 1, there were a couple of keynotes here. As you can see, Michio Kaku, who's a science guy from the Science Channel, he has his own show. But some of the things that he brought up was that education really hasn't changed much in the last 2,000 years, and he brought up the point of Moore's Law. Now you can read through some of these other notes that I made here, but I'm just kind of pointing out some of the highlights. And that you can pretty much take what technology that you see today and project those trends out to a future where computers are pretty much everywhere, sort of like how electricity was when it was first brought out to the mainstream. But today it's pretty much ubiquitous, right? So to the point where we don't even really think about electricity anymore, unless of course when we don't have it. But the same thing can be said for computers at a point where it's because of Moore's Law, which is the idea that computers just basically get cheaper every 18 months, but they get more powerful every 18 months. At some point, computers are just going to be so ubiquitous that they'll pretty much be everywhere, even in contact lenses where we can literally have internet at the blink of an eye, right? Computers at some point, possibly a world where computers become disposable, so to speak, because it becomes so cheap. And but the data itself will still be very powerful, and the cloud will continue to play a prominent role for us. Anyway, then also Tom Kalopoulos, I bought his book, and I'd recommend you do the same thing. It's called The Innovation Zone. But he was talking largely about innovations, and what I thought was interesting too was sort of a not so much a jab at, but just an acknowledgement to something that Michio had said earlier about technology marching on and how we can project what it might be. Well, to Tom's point, what he was pointing out is that we might be able to forecast how technology will change, but what we can't predict is how behavior will innovate, how behavior will affect us as we continue to do innovations and so forth. That there is an uncertainty principle, and that it's that uncertainty that intelligence pretty much embraces, and that, again, the cloud-based learning became another prominent theme here because it allows us to create value in an accelerated manner and also allows us to create innovations in real time, which I thought was very compelling because it's tied to some of the points that Steve Rosenbaum had made in his keynote, where he was talking about the cloud as well and how there's just so much information out there that if you think about from the an exabyte of information being a billion bytes of information, or a billion gigabytes if you can wrap your head around that. But the idea that 5 exabytes of information from the dawn of civilization to 2003 were produced, according to Eric Schmidt of Google, he was quoting him, and that we now produce something on the order of that pretty much every 2 days. So the problem is there's just so much information out there, and that we have to be able to look out for each other and curate information for folks in our network, so that way we act as each other's filters and so forth. And then I also attended some individual sessions, not from keynoters, but these were from individual people and organizations that had things to share. And one of the most compelling ones that I thought in the area of social learning was this thing that Ben Betts did with a product that he has called Curator. They actually piloted it on a course that they ran out of USD for a supply chain management course. You can take a look more at a video that he has here. I put the link in the mind map so you can take a look at that. But I thought it was very compelling because the idea, they pretty much started the pilot for the course as making social pretty much requirement. In other words, social was not an option, and that part of the course requirements was to actually answer questions and go find information and respond to assignments and so forth on the basis of going out and finding information out in the internet that's relevant to what they were discussing in the course, and then bringing it back to some of the other classmates. But the interface I think you'll find kind of interesting, and he also shows that in the video as well, so take a look at that. Longline had an interesting take on it, which isn't new. They have a kind of a freemium model, but they pretty much provide their entire library of continuing education credits for lawyers, and they pretty much provide it online. Now, this is something I want to take a look at for my organization. because we do provide content for free. But what they're doing as well is they're basically taking all of that, and even as they're providing all the content for free in 2 or 3 minute segments, what they're also doing is structuring all of that into coursework that then when it's time for a lawyer to actually get certified, they would basically then pay for the certification test, and that's how LawLine would monetize the content. Also, with what Qualcomm is doing internally, not so much as a profit center, but they're doing it for the development of their employees, where they implemented the use of Jive software to implement social learning for their organization. But what they're doing is they're using a community-based platform throughout their organization of like something to the tune of like 9,000 people throughout their organization. 19,000 employees, 75 worldwide locations. How do you train that, right? So what they're doing is they're still providing the training locally in the different offices in the various languages, but then they're bringing everybody together globally in the online community form to continue to reinforce that learning throughout the organization worldwide. Some very interesting things there, and as you can see, there's a lot of notes that I did take, and I think these were the top 6 for me. Not so much because the other sessions were not necessarily compelling, because they definitely were. I just wanted to focus them on the top 6 that we can kind of wrap our heads around. And for me, this year it seemed like topics are centered around social learning. Anyway, I'll put the link down below this video. You can download the mind map that I just showed you. Take it for your notes. Take a look at some of the folks that are there. Follow them, download their books, and then if you also want to subscribe to this blog, make sure that you sign up in the right sidebar here. Other than that, let's keep the dialogue going. This is Mel. I'll talk to you later. Take care.